No money down strategies. There are tens of no money down strategies. We're going to talk about the most popular few of them and the ones that are used frequently. No money down strategies are the ones that give you the thrill of being a real estate investor, and especially a creative one. Using creative techniques gives the real estate investor the thrill of being a real estate investor when you can create money without using any of your money, and when you can create holdings without using any of your money. That's one of the biggest thrills in real estate, and it helps in building up the portfolio. It gives you the extra stability as a real estate investor. So any real estate investor who wants to take the game to next level will from time to time encounter opportunities where they will be able to use these no money down strategies. It is very important for each investor student to learn these techniques and know when they appear, recognize them, and use them to their benefit. So he will talk about all these strategies and will then analyze some of those strategies in depth. When you have no money to invest, or you don't feel like investing your own money, or you don't have access to money, then creative real estate investment techniques will need to be applied if you are to continue in being an investor. As an investor, it's a golden rule to apply these golden rules. The lesser you invest in a transaction, the better your rate of return is going to be. And you're going to make more money in a deal or more returns on a deal when your investment is as minimum as possible. Smart real estate investors do a lot of creative deals because they can see the thrill, they can feel the thrill of doing zero money down deals, or the more transactions you will be able to do using your own money, or because you're using as less money as possible in each deal. So the same amount of money may end up helping you do a lot more deals. Money is always required when purchasing a real estate. It doesn't matter whether it's zero money down or no money down. The only thing is that this time the money is not coming from your pocket, but it's coming from someone else's pocket. So it's important to understand that zero money down or no money down does not mean that no money is not exchanging hands or no money is being invested. It only means that you are investing as little or no money out of your own pocket, but money is still being invested. It's just coming from different pockets. Every investor wants to do no money down deals. It doesn't matter whether they have money or not. It's fun to do no money down deals. I've done a lot of no money down deals where I bought a lot of properties without using any of my own money. And even better, I've done even better deals than the no money down deals. Those deals is where I walk away with the money on closing. Yeah, you might be surprised. Not only you buy the property, you fund it without using any of your cash. And at the time of closing, you get cash in hand and you get equity in the property. Those are the best type of deals that you will learn how to do. And those are fantastic way of doing deals. Real estate investors, the savvy real estate investors, understand one golden rule of real estate investing is that money is made at the time of purchase and realized at the time of sale. Average investor buys at market price, hopes for inflation to kick in, hopes for prices to appreciate, and then sell when the market goes up. But what happens if the market does go up or doesn't appreciate? In those cases, those investors lose their shirt. But a smart investor buys the property with a walk-in equity. It gives the extra added security, and it gives them extra bonus security, because even if the market falls, still they're in a safe position. As a real estate investor, it is important to have all of these tools in your toolbox. As each situation varies, Each situation will be different. You don't know which technique or which tool you will need to apply. You will have to apply and have the knowledge of various techniques. And that's very, very important. Being street smart is very, very important for any smart real estate investor, because you have to know which technique to apply when and how to apply it so that you can gain the maximum benefit out of doing a deal. If you want to do good, or you want to thrive in real estate, being street smart and having all the tools in your toolbox is a must. Distress techniques. Remember, when you are using this technique, we buy from the distressed owner, but not the distressed property. The owner is distressed, but the property should not be distressed. If a minor distress on the property or minor repairs are needed, that's fine. But nothing complicated or major renovation should be undertaken unless you are an expert at them. Please do not misuse your privilege as a real estate investor when you are buying properties from distressed owners. They are already distressed, and you don't want to misuse your knowledge to take an advantage over them, but you want to do fair deals, and you want to create win-win situation, which we'll learn in this course. We want to do the deals where everybody wins in one way or another. Not all investors think in this line, but accordingly, this is exactly what is missing out there. When creating a win-win deal, people will notice that you'll get more deals than you can handle, because everybody in the community or in your circle will notice that you're a fair deal, and the world will spread like a wildfire when you're dealing truly and honestly. Now let's look at the most popular no money down strategies. Number one of these is the seller financing or owner financing, also known as the VTB, the vendor take back. This is the most popular no money down strategy. The purchase of real estate can be referred to as the seller financing, where the seller is providing you the mortgage or the vendor take back. Instead of getting the loan or the financing from the financial institution or the bank, you ask the seller to give you the financing, and you give them deed as a collateral for the financing. The seller financing is one of the best and easiest financing options. Number two is the owner financing plus the lender financing. In this strategy, we got the first mortgage from a traditional lender, which can be a bank or credit union, and the seller financing for the balance as a second mortgage. Not all banks like this technique, as the buyer has no skin in the game. So in most cases, the banks will require the buyer to show as proof of funds as a down payment to the bank, and the deal is closed. But after the deal is closed, the seller places the second mortgage, which is registered as VTB, and the buyer gets his money back. JV partners or joint venture partners. It's a pretty popular technique to use JV partners in your real estate deals. As you do more and more deals, you will be needing JV partners to close even more deals. The reason for that is you need them for down payment, you need them for co-signing, you need them as guarantors for income or any other thing to solidify your mortgage application. So banks and credit unions normally hold the first mortgage on this, while JV partner comes as a second as a partner in it. Sometimes they put as a second or they go on the title. It depends on your agreement with the JV partner, whether you want them as a partner or you just want them as a funder and a silent partner. It all depends on your, and either way it can work so far you both of you agree. JV partner can help you close a lot more deals than otherwise would be possible because they provide extra down payment, they provide the capital that you need, and the credit and income that you need to succeed in real estate. Sandwich lease option. As the name applies, basically you are leasing a property. So this happens when a property listing goes stale on MLS. That means the seller is not able to sell or lease out for whatever reason. Maybe the price was listed too high, or maybe the real estate agent wasn't that good, or it was a wrong timing or wrong type of advertisement or promotion or representation. It can be any reason. When the listing goes stale, means it goes on the market and stays on the market for a long period of time, the seller becomes distressed because they get tired of seeing buyers and nobody buying it. So you will see in those ads, the seller will write property is for sale or lease, which indicates very clearly that the seller is tired of the property and want to get rid of the property. And this is one of the secrets of finding motivated sellers. You as an investor can negotiate to lease this property instead of buying it. Because why should you buy it if you don't need to? You can lease it with the lease options and have a very good contract to bind it, and then register your lease option on the title. It's very, very important. As a favorable terms, and you can negotiate a favorable terms because the seller is motivated and with the favorable purchase terms. And you also ask the seller to agree to your sublease. And then you sublease the property, sign a lease option with your tenant buyer, and whatever is the difference between your purchase price and your sale price, that becomes your profit, plus the added profit over a number of years that you're leasing and subleasing, plus the monthly difference between your cost of your lease and the income of your sublease. So that becomes your monthly cash flow income. The beauty about this is you are doing a no money down deal. You are not putting any money down. The deposit that you received from your subtenant, you are giving it to the landlord who has agreed to do a rent to own or lease option or ALPE type of system agreement. And once he's bound by those terms, and the beauty is you are buying a property, you're taking control of a property with zero money down. I have done deals, sandwich lease option deals, where we walked away with lots of money at time of closing. Let's take an example. Let's say you're buying a house or you're leasing in a house which is worth $300,000, and you agree with the seller to add 2% appreciation and do a 3-year contract, and let's say you're renting it for $1,500. Now you go back and find a tenant buyer who's willing to lease it from you, let's say for $2,000, and you add, let's say, additional rent as per the ALP agreement of another $300 to $500, plus your administrative fee of $250. Now you have a over $1,000 monthly cash flow. And let's say you're buying it for $300,000 plus 2% for each year, and let's say the contract is for 3 years, but you're selling to your subtenant with an appreciation of 5 or 6%. So you're making 3 to 4% appreciation per year on the purchase amount, which adds to $40,000-$50,000 over a period of 3 years. And your down payment, you gave your landlord a down payment of, let's say, $5,000, but you may take $20,000 or $50,000 down payment from your buyer depending on who your buyer is. In this way, you walk away at the time of signing of the contract. You walk away with the extra cash in hand. You walk away with monthly cash flow without having invested any money on closing. So this is one of the smartest way of doing a deal. But the important thing to remember in this is that there are few risk factors if you do not do your lease properly. So which we'll discuss further down, that how to protect your lease, what are the pros and cons, we'll discuss further about it. Lease buyback. Buyback is one of my favorite techniques where the seller is in distress and you find that seller where they are in distress and you buy the property from them under the condition that they will lease it and buy back from you. Depending on the equity of the seller and the reason of the distress, the seller will provide you. I've seen in my cases even up to 20% down payment, from 5 to 20%, sometimes even higher than 20% down payment, because they don't want to get capital gains while they are still planning to buy back the property. So in such cases, if you know these techniques, that's why I always say it's very, very important for you to understand and know the techniques. So when you are negotiating, you know how to negotiate. You know how to present a point. For example, in this case, let's discuss. If a seller is in distress and they have a lot of equity in the house, but they're so attached to the house, for example, they might have lost their job recently, but less 20, 30% or 40% equity in the house. No A lender will definitely do the deal. B lender may not even do the deal because they don't have the down payment. If they were in default because they had missed the payments, the current lender will not even refinance the deal. In that case, the seller has no option, the owner has no option but to sell the property or be foreclosed on. So when a property owner is in such situation, they become very motivated. And if you know the techniques to negotiate, let's say you meet with such a seller and you tell them, okay, you have the equity. If you sell the house to me and I buy it, you will end up paying capital gains. But if you do the seller financing, if you do the vendor take back, you will defer the capital gains you're supposed to pay. That means you don't have to pay those capital gains right now. They are already in distress. They definitely would not like to pay the capital gains. And especially if they are interested in buying back or they are attached to the property and they want to stay in the neighborhood, like their children are going to the schools in the neighborhood and their children have friends, or they have some jobs nearby, or whatever the situation might be, that they might be attached to the house, they might be attached to the neighborhood, or their other family might be living in the neighborhood, or they might have been living in that neighborhood for quite some time and now they got attached to the property. Whatever the case may be, they are so attached to the property that they would not like to sell the property. So if they don't want to sell the property and they are going to buy back the property, so it's best for them to keep that equity safe in the house and earn whether interest on it or whatever you can negotiate or without interest. But keep the equity safe, because if they take it cash from you, they will end up spending it. But if they keep it in the house, which you can use as vendor take back, and the beauty is that way their equity stays safe. Now they can continue to stay in the house till the person gets back the job or gets back on his feet or improves his credit score while the equity is still there. You end up buying a property with zero down. You are buying that property with no money down. The beauty is you are not spending any money on that property. If you are not spending any money on that property, now you can have that property and rent it out and then sell it back after a few years when they are ready. So this kind of technique I've seen. I have even sellers who left 20 to 30% equity in the house. Well, they got some money back, to pay off their debts or whatever their current situation might be. And then after a year or 2 or 3 years, depending on how soon they were able to get back the job, or you might use some of the equity as a reserve for monthly payments, or you can have the monthly payments paid in advance. So that's why having different tools, having different techniques in the toolbox is very, very important. The beauty of this technique is that you don't have to look for the buyer also, because your seller is your buyer and who is so attached to the property that they will be willing to buy back the property from you. And this gives you added security because you're walking in with no money down and you're walking out with lots of profit and cash in hand. Pre-bankruptcy. This is a bit of high-level technique which needs to be applied with caution and with lots of knowledge. Pre-bankruptcy deals are highly profitable, and you need to take a very fast action if you want to grab them. Normally, the deal is closed in a matter of days, maximum, let's say 2 weeks. When a property owner is facing bankruptcy, normally the property owner is trying to preserve whatever equity they have, whatever assets they have. And normal cases, the property owner is allowed, in case of bankruptcy, is allowed to keep their house and continue to stay there. But in some cases, the courts or judges will rule that some of the equity should be refinanced to settle the debts, or their settlement will be such that they will still require to pay some of the debts because they have lots of equity in the house. In that case, a smart seller may sell the property with a bigger down payment, and because the down payment is a non-refundable down payment to you as an investor, and sign a long-term lease. I've seen my leases for 5-year leases or 7-year leases where they are coming out of the consumer proposal or bankruptcy, and the equity stays safe for them so that when they come back they have that equity to fall back on. And in this case, the seller sells you the property and you take over the property without having a knowledge that he's just going to file for the bankruptcy. The seller may safeguard some of his equity as a down payment, and as the best thing is if they can safeguard as much of it as possible, because otherwise they're going to lose it in the court or lose it, and they can still continue to rent. They can still continue to live, and the down payment can be structured in such a way that they can leave you a bigger down payment, which can be used as the monthly payment. Can be used for paying the monthly payments. This will help the seller have a buffer for some time to deal with the things they're dealing with at this moment. But word of caution here, because this is a gray area. It can be sometime in gray area in certain jurisdictions and some certain laws where the person is purposely trying to evade or hide the assets. So if it happens within 2 years of the bankruptcy, there's a clawback clause that can be implemented by some courts. So you have to be very cautious that he is not filing for bankruptcy within the 2-year period. So that's very, very important for you to understand. But some people have a lot of debts. Some people have lots of debt which they are in no way able to pay, and they have no choice but to file for bankruptcies. In those cases, such a technique can be highly, highly profitable for you as an investor. Title transfer refinance is another high-level technique. This technique may trigger due on sale clause of the mortgage. What it means is all mortgages have what is called due on sale. Means if you transfer the title or if you sell the property, your mortgage becomes immediately due. But if you do that, let's say you transfer the title, but you don't still pay off the mortgage, but you continue to pay the monthly payments to the lender I've seen in my cases is the lender rarely recalls the mortgage because they are receiving the payments on time, and no lender wants to recall a good loan. If your payments are going on time, they may ask you a question why the payments are coming from the other person. You can always sign an agreement that you are property manager and that you are responsible for making the payments. In that case, the bank is satisfied and they have no issue with it. And once you hold the title, once you have the transfer of the title, and if you're purchasing a deal which has good margin between your purchase price and the appraised price, you might be able to refinance. So you have to have good relationship and understanding with the seller and competent real estate lawyers who understand how to get this deal done. Not all lawyers are willing to do this kind of deal or understand how to do this deal. In this, the seller is transferring the title to you. The mortgage, the original mortgage, still stays on the property because the mortgage is on the property. The seller may be guarantor. The seller is still saying as the guarantor because so the mortgage still stays on the property because he is not actually really refinancing the property at the time of the sale. So what happens? The title is being transferred. This technique gets applied when you're buying from a distressed or tired seller. When the seller is fed up, they cannot sell and they are in distress. So this is one of the best options where you negotiate the price with them, you buy the property, you transfer the title. Because now you own the title, you are the owner of the title. You can ask the bank to get the new appraisal done. And whatever is the gap between your purchase price and the appraisal price now becomes your equity. And because you are doing the refinance, so the purchase contract doesn't have to be presented. You can transfer the title by writing $2 and having a separate agreement. You may end up using the difference as your equity to refinance. And I've seen in some cases, this is one of the best techniques where you could buy and take over a property. Not only you walk away with cash in hand, but you also pay off all the mortgage or majority of the mortgage that you owed to the seller and to the previous mortgage company or lender. And you get the control of the property in hand. So this is kind of no money down deal. RRSP, registered retirement saving plan, or TFSA, tax-free saving account or plan, and then Roth IRA financing. This is another high level, highly tax efficient technique, and since there are trillions of dollars lying in these registered retirement accounts all over North America, which are making almost next to nothing. As an investor, you can borrow at arm's length these funds to invest as down payment or as a second mortgage in the property. The beauty of this technique is that if you understand this technique, is all the profits made by the lender go back into the retirement account tax-free. So there's no tax withholding. They don't have to pay any taxes because it was a registered account and it comes from the trust account. All the investment coming from the trust account is sent back to the trust account with all the profits. And these profits are not declared as income since they are under the RSP account or TFSA account. So there's no taxes involved unless in case of RSP or Roth IRA, the tax will be at the time of withdrawal and at the time of withdrawal depending on the income of the person withdrawing it. So this is one of the best techniques to grow your money tax-free. You can JV with someone, you can joint venture with someone, and you can use your retirement funds or use somebody else's retirement funds, and all the profits that are made can be deposited into these retirement accounts or tax-free saving accounts without paying any penny of tax. Promissory note. Promissory note is another technique where you use the promissory note. Promissory note is a pretty popular technique when it comes to private lending or private instruments registrations, where you know the lender very well, where the investor knows the buyer very well. So an instrument is issued by one party promising the other to pay down or pay back the amount that they had borrowed on demand or on specific date. If it's promissory note on demand, then whenever they demand, you will have to pay them. A loan or promissory note will generally contain certain information such as the amount of money that you owe them, the interest rate, and when it's supposed to be paid back, and who has signed it, and when it was issued, and for what purpose it was issued. It's like a personal guarantee basically. You are giving somebody a personal guarantee and you're borrowing that money on your personal basis, and you need to have good relationship with the lender, because they know you well, that you're a real estate investor, and they know you well, and they're willing to give you the money in exchange for a promissory note. Now you can use that money, you can borrow that money as the down payment and purchase your property as zero money down. Retiring. When a seller is retiring and they have a lot of equity in the property, if they sell the property, they will trigger immediate capital gains. If a person is retiring and they have no plans of doing 1031 exchange or buying the next property, and paying capital gains may not be the best thing for them if they don't have a big nest egg. So in this technique, the seller offers the seller financing if you explain to them correctly this is how you are going to do and what are the exit strategies, which every lender or every financer will ask you, is that what is the exit strategy, which means how are they going to get their money back, whether you want to refinance it, whether you want to sell it, whether you're going to reappraise and refinance and pay them back. So it can be any of the exit strategies. So the beauty of this technique is that the seller is holding back the payment of the capital gains because they are lending to you as the VTB. And now they are earning interest on the part of the capital gains amount which was supposed to be paid as taxes. So if they are lending you this money for a longer period of time, they can continue to earn interest on it, on the money which should have been paid in taxes. So this can not only help them save the amount of capital gains that they're going to pay. They're still going to pay the same amount of capital gains at the end of the day, but because they're paying after extended period of time, they have already made money on that money, and that making of that money can offset the amount of capital gains which was supposed to be paid. Remember guys, I'm not your legal advisor, I'm not your tax advisor, I'm not your accountant, I'm not your CPA. What we are teaching you here is from a practical real estate investment life. When you are going to apply any of these techniques or any of the above, or in this training, any technique which concerns law, taxes, or any other element of financial advice, we will strongly advise you to seek the advice of licensed professionals practicing, whether it be lawyers, whether it be financial consultants, or whether it be licensed accountants, whoever it may be, that you need to get the full advice to check back the technique that we apply. What we are teaching you is for information, and it's from our practical life as a real estate investors. So other techniques which we use in terms of 6 Ds of the real estate sales triggers is that the death, 1D is death, the 2nd D is disease, the 3rd D is divorce, 4th is debt, 5th is downsizing, the 6th is distress. Any of these situations can trigger seller financing or any of these situations can seller financing. That's why it's very important as a real estate investor to understand all these techniques, to understand, have all the tools, because when you are negotiating, and even if there's competition and you are offering way better, way out, you might be offering the same price. But if you are lowering somebody's taxes, or you are using other techniques to give them a benefit over doing the deal with the other party, you end up winning. So it's very important as a tool in your toolbox, to know all the techniques, to understand them and apply them whenever you need them. The next technique is also very popular, and if you are aware of this technique, this is not too popular in terms of, it's not a too well known because it's a high level technique. Not many people know about this technique. I'm not aware of any other country which has similar type of 1031 exchange as the US. So Canadians who are investing in US, yes, they can do 1031 exchange on their US properties, or the US citizens who sell their properties in Canada can also defer their taxes under their own 1031 exchange if they are registered back in the US. But since 1031 exchange does not exist in Canada for the Canadian property, the capital gains need to be paid. So this technique is pretty prevalent with Canadian properties or Canadian sellers. Smart retiring sellers don't want to pay the capital gains because anyhow they are retiring. They have no plans to reinvest that money. So for them, it's better to invest in the property that they owned and hold it as security, whether it's a first mortgage or a second mortgage. Hold it as security and defer the taxes back as far as possible. Not only they will get way better return than what they would do in the bank, and you can agree with the seller or your lender, who is now your lender because they are doing VTB, the terms of payment, where they could receive a good cash flow from you while they're deferring the capital gains and earning good interest from you, because they're giving you seller financing, and this way they could offset the effect of the capital gains over a long period of time. That not only helps them save on taxes, it defers the taxes, it helps them earn extra income on the amount that was supposed to be paid in taxes. So this strategy is a really high level strategy. You have to understand how to apply it, but once you understand how to apply it, you can get a lot of deals done with this technique with zero money down. Because a lot of baby boomers, they are retiring right now, and there are 100 million of them, and they own majority of the properties out there. They are the main sellers of the properties out there. So if you could talk in their benefit, talk in their language, which will benefit them, which will help them defer or save taxes legally, that way your offer will become a way better offer, even if the other party might have a higher offer than you. Let's look into the details of the lease option, which is also a no money down techniques. The details of lease options. So as each situation may vary, every situation will be different. That's why it's important to learn all the tools. You will need to add some details to any given lease option to buy a property or to sign an agreement based on a lot of things like the individual circumstances, the chain of events, the title issues or needs of the parties. If they want to save taxes and if they want to delay their taxes, you might have to address those issues for you to structure a profitable and a good deal. Using a single lease option agreement does not protect your equity very well by itself. It's important to remember that when you use a lease or an option, it only means that you have a right to buy a house while you pay your monthly lease payments, but it doesn't protect you in case that person gets defaulted or get foreclosed on, your agreement under the lease option doesn't carry so much of a weight. So you have to know, how can I protect my interest as a lease option and the purchase. So that's very, very important, which we'll discuss later on. So let's dig deep further into when you're leasing the property and subleasing it to somebody. So it's very important for you to understand the pros and cons of the lease options. Using a single lease option agreement does not protect you or protects your equity or interest very well. So you have to make sure what type of contracts you're using. And it's not a cure-all for real estate investing. A lease option agreement does not provide you with a vested interest in the title of the property. So those are the cons. And the pros are, it's a very simple, it's very easy, it's a handy tool if you don't have a lot of cash to get started. It can get you the property in, it can give you cash at closing, and you can get the deal done fast and quickly. The lease option can be very effective tools for you to sell and resell because you don't have to pay the purchase, closing cost, or all other costs associated with closing immediately, and you can do a double closing or whatever your local law may allow at the time of closing. Or you can do what you call this title transfer. There are a lot of other options, or assignment, in order to close. It helps secure the transactions if you have bulletproof paperwork. So having proper paperwork is very, very important when you are doing the lease options. So here are some legal and contract tips. You can be creative with lease option agreements, but please do not be creative on the technical and legal and title issues. Please use a proper lawyer. It would be best if you use an attorney to advise you on the documentation. Use your common sense and intuition. Seek out the advice of others who have more experience than you. Make sure that the documentation is done right. It's always easy to negotiate in the initial stage. Once you're in the deal, now you are stuck. So you want to make sure you're signing the proper agreement. You read through those agreements and you go through with a proper lawyer to go through all those agreements, a real estate lawyer who understands real estate. And on top of that, you should understand these contracts and their implication. Be sure that you have an escrow company or closing attorney, and always get the title report, search the title report before you put any cash or contract or money in a deal. Because it's very, very important to understand that you are not buying from a straw buyer, or you are not buying from somebody who is not even the owner of the title. So make sure you get your lawyer involved when you're doing any transaction, and make sure the lawyer does the title search, thoroughly checks the documentation, that they are not falsified or they are not being checked, and you can also get the title insurance to cover your back. So here are some of the benefits of lease options. Number one, low or very little down payment, no loan qualifications, faster equity growth, option fees is applied towards the purchase of the house, profits from any appreciation, then time to check out the neighborhood and neighbors. It gives you enough time to make sure that you're in the right neighborhood before you purchase the property. It's time for, and it gives you enough time for obtaining the proper or right financing. You don't have to pay any taxes or insurances because you are still leasing it. Practically, you are not owning it, although you have the option to purchase the property. So you don't pay taxes because you have an option. You will pay taxes after you become the owner. So no significant, no major repairs. Quick move in time. And today you could control it setting up from home, and you can just do the deal sitting from home, which you can buy and resell tomorrow or resell whenever you want to. It allows you the remote control because your investment in the deal is not too much. You're leasing and subleasing, and you are signing the option agreement, the lease option agreement, or the purchase option agreement, and then further signing it back to sell it to your tenant buyer. And there's also possible assignment clause where you could make profits. This increases or maximizes your leverage, increases your buying power. It buys you the time, and there's little or no down payment. So it's a very flexible. That's why I'm emphasizing on it a lot, because it's one of the best techniques out there which you could apply as zero money down. So remember, there's another golden rule that we say is that lease options are not found, they are created. We call these golden rules is because they are not normally applied, and they are very, very important things to remember. So once you know that there are so many benefits of a lease purchase or a lease option a seller or landlord can have, it's very easy approach to show them how this lease purchase can solve a problem or give them the benefit or tax referral or capital gains referral, and then you make them the offer. In exchange, by offering, you can get some easy terms in terms of the purchase. You can negotiate because you're giving them the added benefit. You can ask for, better sales price or market, and you can ask in terms of your lease package, you can ask for higher market rents or freedom for maintenance, and on top of that, you are not paying any sales commission in terms of whether it's a purchase under the option agreement or it's a sale. You are avoiding having to pay any real estate commission, which is a big saving both for the seller, and they will be happy to do a lease option to you because now they don't have to pay the realtor 5-6% commission on top of the uncertainty that they will have to immediately sell it and pay the capital gains. So here are some of the major benefits for the sellers. They can obtain a top sales price in any given market. They can obtain top rents on time, and they can work around your time frame. So no long vacations. They don't have to pay real estate commission. There's more safety, and you can find high quality tenants because it's a lease option. So, and there are no maintenance hassles, and you can work with any type of real estate, and then there's a large pool of buyers. No management headaches, no management fees, can be modified to achieve the desired outcome. You can negotiate it, and there are a lot of tax benefits on the sale of your prime resident because you don't have to pay capital gains to a certain amount, or whether it's a lifetime capital gains exemption, which in Canada is around $900,000, which is quite a bit. So then there's a positive cash flow and more non-refundable cash upfront. So there are tons and tons of benefits both for the sellers and the buyers. So it's very important to understand when you are negotiating, whether you're a buyer or you're a seller, then you end up wearing that hat and negotiating the best deal, which can be mutually beneficial. So these options are a little bit complicated deals. It's very important for you to understand and negotiate with the seller directly. So I would advise not using a realtor. The realtors tend to complicate very simply because they're not getting paid the commission. If a realtor is not getting paid the commission, they are going to complicate the deal, and they may end up spoiling your deal by scaring or the seller. So it's very, very important for you to understand that you have to deal directly with the seller. Whenever whatever your real estate objectives are, a lease option is frequently the best option out there. It's one of the best options because it involves no money in a deal and it's very easy to do. So it's one of the best options out there. Guys, good luck. Go ahead and use them.